Welcome to Whispers of Time. Everyone is chasing something that doesn't really exist. A perfect face, a perfect body, perfect English, a perfect life. And without noticing, people slowly lose something real while chasing something fake. They smile in public but feel exhausted inside. They speak but every word is filtered through fear. They try but deep down they feel like they are never enough. The truth is simple but uncomfortable. Nobody is perfect. Yet most people spend their entire lives fighting this truth. They hide their mistakes. They cover their weaknesses. They pretend to be someone they are not. And that is exactly where the pain begins. Because when you try to become perfect, you stop being real. And when you stop being real, you slowly lose yourself. This is a story about that loss. Daniel was 23 years old. He lived alone in a small rented room in a crowded city. His life looked normal from the outside, but inside, it was a constant battle. Every morning, he woke up at the same time and stood in front of the mirror. But he didn't see a person. He saw problems. His face wasn't good enough. His body wasn't strong enough. His English wasn't fluent enough. His confidence wasn't high enough. Every day began with criticism. Getting dressed was not simple for him. He would change shirts again and again, not because he cared about style, but because he was afraid. Afraid that someone might judge him. Afraid that he might look wrong. Even his laugh was controlled. Even his steps were careful. Inside his mind, one voice repeated again and again, "Don't make a mistake." Daniel wasn't lazy. He worked hard. He studied. He watched videos. He practiced English alone. But in real situations, everything changed. One day at work, his manager asked him to explain a report in English. Daniel knew the answer. He had practiced it before. But the moment he stood up, his mind went blank. His heart raced. His hands felt cold. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. The room was silent. No one laughed. No one interrupted. They were just waiting. But in his mind, it felt like everyone was judging him. After a few seconds, his manager said, "It's okay, sit down." That moment stayed with him. That night, Daniel sat alone in his dark room. He didn't eat. He didn't use his phone. He just replayed that moment again and again in his head. The same questions repeated endlessly. Why didn't I speak? Why am I like this? Why can't I be normal? Slowly, those questions turned into beliefs. I am not confident. I am not smart. I am not enough. And then came the most dangerous thought of all. Maybe I will never change. That one sentence is powerful enough to trap someone for years. Daniel believed his problem was his English, or his confidence, or his fear of people. But his real problem was deeper. He believed he had to become perfect before he could act. I will speak when my English is perfect. I will try when I feel confident. I will act when I am ready. But life doesn't work that way, because no one becomes perfect first. People start first, and then they improve. Daniel didn't understand this yet, so he kept waiting. Waiting to feel ready. Waiting to feel confident. Waiting to become perfect. And while he waited, his life kept moving forward without him. One night, he stood in front of the mirror again. This time, he didn't say anything. He just stared at himself. His eyes looked tired. His face looked empty. Then suddenly, in a moment of frustration, he hit the mirror. A crack appeared. He stepped back, breathing heavily, and looked again. His reflection was no longer whole. His face was broken into pieces. And for the first time, he didn't just see flaws. He saw the truth. Not perfect, not strong, not confident, just real. And quietly, almost like a confession, he whispered, "I'm tired of trying to be perfect." That moment didn't fix his life, but it changed something important. For the first time, he stopped pretending. That night, Daniel didn't fix the mirror. He didn't clean it. He didn't try to hide the crack. Instead, he sat there in silence, staring at his broken reflection. Before, he used to look at himself and immediately judge. But now the crack forced him to see something different. His face was no longer one clear image. It was divided into pieces, and each piece showed something he had been avoiding for years. In one angle, he looked tired. In another, frustrated. In another, scared. For the first time, he didn't look away. Usually, when Daniel felt uncomfortable, he escaped. He would grab his phone, scroll endlessly, distract himself with anything that could silence his thoughts. But this time he stayed. No music, no screen, no noise. Just him and the truth. Minutes passed, then an hour, and slowly the thoughts he had been avoiding began to rise. Why am I always afraid? Why do I care so much about what people think? Why do I feel small around others? These weren't simple questions, and the answers didn't come easily. Then out of nowhere, a memory appeared. He was 12 years old, standing in a classroom, reading something in English. He made a small mistake, just one. Some students laughed, not loudly, not cruelly, but enough to leave a mark. He smiled with them, pretending it didn't matter. But it did. That moment stayed hidden inside him for years. And from that day, he became careful. Careful with his words, careful with his actions, careful with everything, because he never wanted to feel that embarrassment again. And slowly, being careful turned into fear. That night, Daniel realized something most people never understand. He wasn't afraid of making mistakes. He was afraid of feeling embarrassed. To avoid that feeling, he built a rule for his life. Don't act unless you are perfect. It sounded safe, but it wasn't. Because when you only act when everything is perfect, you stop acting completely. Daniel stood up slowly and walked closer to the mirror. He looked at the crack again. Something about it felt honest, real. It wasn't hiding anything. And then a simple thought came to him. The mirror is broken, but I can still see myself. He paused. Another thought followed. My English is broken, but I can still speak. His breathing became deeper. My confidence is broken, but I can still try. That moment didn't feel exciting. It didn't feel like motivation. It felt quiet, real, honest. For the first time, Daniel didn't feel like fixing himself. He felt like accepting himself. He looked into the broken mirror again and said something different. Not, I am not enough, but I am not perfect, but I am still here. His voice was soft, but it was true, and something inside him became lighter. That night, Daniel didn't make big promises. He didn't say, tomorrow I will change everything. He didn't imagine becoming confident overnight. He made one small decision. Tomorrow, I will try once. Not perfectly, not confidently, just honestly. Before going to sleep, he looked at the mirror one more time. The crack was still there. Nothing was fixed. But something inside him had shifted. The next morning, he woke up earlier than usual. Not because he was excited, but because his mind was already active. Today, I will try once. The sentence returned, but this time, it felt fragile. Immediately, his thoughts started fighting back. What if you fail again? What if people judge you? What if nothing changes? Fear didn't disappear. It became louder. Daniel sat up and looked around his room. Everything was the same. The broken mirror was still on the wall. He walked toward it slowly. This time he didn't rush. He stood there and observed himself carefully. His hair was messy. His face looked tired. Nothing had magically improved. For a moment, the old voice returned. You haven't changed. But this time, he didn't argue with it. He simply said, just try. That one sentence was enough. When he got dressed, he noticed something different. Usually, he would change clothes multiple times, trying to look perfect. But today, he paused. He picked a simple shirt, looked at himself once, and stopped. His mind pushed back. Change it, it's not good enough. But he quietly answered, it's okay. Not perfect, just okay. When he stepped outside, the world looked normal. People walking, cars moving. Nothing had changed outside, but inside everything felt heavier. Because today he wasn't just going to think, He was going to act. At work, he sat at his desk, trying to focus. But his mind wasn't calm. It was waiting for a moment, and then it came. A colleague walked up to him and asked a simple question about a report. For most people, it was nothing. For Daniel, it was everything. His heart started racing. His throat felt dry. His hands became cold. The same fear, the same pressure. His mind screamed, "Don't do it. Stay silent. Stay safe." For a few seconds, he froze. This was the same pattern he had followed for years. Avoid, stay quiet, escape. But then, quietly, another voice appeared. Not strong, not loud, just a memory. "Tomorrow, I will try once." He took a slow breath, and this time, he didn't run. Daniel stood there for a few seconds, feeling the pressure build inside his chest. The fear was still strong. His mind was still trying to pull him back. Stay quiet. Say you don't know. Avoid this. This was the pattern he had followed for years. But this time, something was different. He remembered the broken mirror, the crack, the moment he chose to stop pretending. And slowly he made a decision, not a confident one, not a comfortable one, but a real one. He spoke. "I think this part shows the data from last month, and it compares it with this week." His voice wasn't steady. His sentence wasn't perfect. He paused, searching for words. He made small mistakes, but he didn't stop. He continued explaining, slowly, honestly. And then something unexpected happened. His colleague nodded. "That makes sense," he said. That was it. No judgment, no laughter, no embarrassment, just a normal response. Daniel sat back down quietly, but inside, something shifted. Not excitement, not pride, relief. A small, silent relief. He didn't become confident in that moment. He didn't suddenly transform, but he proved something important to himself. I can act, even when I'm not perfect. That realization stayed with him for the rest of the day. He didn't become fearless. He still hesitated. He still overthought. But he didn't avoid everything anymore. He tried again. Small moments, small risks. A sentence here, a question there. Not perfect, but real. Each time he tried, something inside him grew stronger. Not confidence, but courage. That evening when he returned home, he stood in front of the broken mirror again. The crack was still there. Nothing outside had changed. But inside, something had. He looked at himself and for the first time, didn't immediately search for flaws. Instead, he remembered the moment he spoke, the moment he didn't run. And quietly he said, "Maybe I don't need to fix everything. Maybe I just need to keep trying." Days passed, then weeks. Daniel's life didn't suddenly become perfect. He still made mistakes. Sometimes his words were wrong. Sometimes his voice still shook. But one thing changed completely. He stopped running. Before, his life looked like this: overthink, fear, stay silent, regret. Now it looked different. Try, speak, accept mistakes, move forward. And slowly people began to notice, not because he became perfect, but because he became present. He started participating in conversations, asking questions, sharing ideas. His English wasn't perfect, but it was clear enough. And that was enough. One day his manager came to him. "Daniel, I want you to lead the next presentation." Before, this would have terrified him. He would have avoided it, made excuses, found a way out. But now he paused. The fear was still there, but it didn't control him anymore. He nodded slightly. "I'll try." Not, "I'll be perfect." Not, "I'm confident." Just, "I'll try." The day of the presentation arrived. Daniel stood in front of a room full of people. More people than before. More pressure than before. His heart was beating fast. His hands weren't steady. Nothing magical had changed. But his mindset had. "I don't need to be perfect to stand here." He started speaking. At first, his voice was quiet, careful, but he continued. He didn't focus on avoiding mistakes. He focused on communicating. And because of that, his words became more natural. He made mistakes, but he didn't stop. He corrected himself and moved forward. And something important happened. People listened. Some nodded, some followed along. They weren't looking for perfection. They were just listening. When he finished, there was a brief silence. Then someone said, "That was clear." Two simple words, but for Daniel, they meant everything. Not because he was perfect, but because he did it, despite the fear. That evening, he walked home slowly, thinking deeply. All this time, he had been waiting for confidence to begin. But now he understood something clearly. Confidence doesn't come before action. It comes after. When he reached home, he stood in front of the same broken mirror. The crack was still there, but now he saw something new. Not perfection, strength. Quiet, real strength. He looked at himself and said, "I am still imperfect, but I'm not afraid of it anymore." And that was the moment everything truly changed, because he stopped chasing perfection and finally started living. Now understand this carefully. This is not just Daniel's story. This is your story too. You are waiting. Waiting to speak when your English is perfect. Waiting to start when your confidence is high. Waiting to act when you feel ready. But that moment will never come, because perfection is not real. It is just an idea that keeps you stuck. Real growth looks different. You speak with mistakes. You try with fear. You fail and continue anyway. So stop waiting. Speak, even if your voice shakes. Try, even if you feel scared. Start, even if you are not ready. Because your life will not change when you become perfect. Your life will change when you stop chasing perfection. And remember this, nobody is perfect. And that is exactly why you still have a chance to become something real.